Hello and welcome to the first Nessie's Escapades video of 2026, hopefully the first of a few. Unfortunately a few things cropped up last year that prevented me from making any videos, one of which was my koi pond. It decided to spring a leak and I had to proceed with digging out the entire pond, and while I was at it I thought I'd make it a bit bigger, so that took a good couple of months to sort out, but that's another story. But I think you'd be glad to know that the whistle has been completed on Nessie, and she did make it out onto the water a couple of times last year. So this video is Operation Toot Toot Part 2. There will be a Part 3, only because the video would be stupidly long if I didn't split it into 3. But I think what I'll do in between is put a couple of cruising videos up as well, just to break things up a little bit. But yeah, this is Operation Toot Toot Part 2, and I hope you enjoy it. Right, so here we are with Nessie's bonnet on its end. I've already held the bracket that we made last time up inside here against the top of the engine casing, and I've made a mark where the hole is going to be for that bulkhead fitting that we made. So what I'm going to do now is centre pop it, and then we can drill a pilot hole so we know where to drill from the other side. So what we'll do now is we'll get the drill and we'll just, I've already made a start there, and we'll just bore through where I've marked it out. There we go, easy as that. So now we'll put the bonnet down and then we'll drill a bigger hole from the other side. What we've got here is a step drill bit which will drill holes of multiple sizes. So we'll drill a hole where I've drilled the pilot hole out to about 20 millimeters. And the reason I'm doing that is so we can fit a grommet like this, which will just finish off the hole and allow just a bit of movement of the whistle for adjustment. So we'll get that hole drilled now. Next one up. There we go. And there we go, that's with the grommet fitted. Now don't worry about any of this damage to the paintwork. The whole thing's going to be stripped and resprayed anyway, because it was inevitable where the horn was fitted there was going to be some scratching of the paintwork. So let's get that bracket fitted. Right, now's the exciting part. I've mounted the bracket underneath and I've put the grommet in, and now it's time to see what this steam whistle actually looks like when it's fitted to Nessie. Are we ready? Yeah, that doesn't look half bad, I don't think. So what I'll do now, I'll just screw it up from underneath and then make any adjustments it needs, then we can get a good idea of what it's going to look like. Well, if I say so myself, I don't think that looks half bad. That's just the spot where it needed to go, I think. So now is the fun part of installing the compressor and all the air lines. So let's get cracked on with it. Now this is not exactly where the compressor is going to go. It's going to sit on the inside of the engine casing. But what I want to see is where these feet are going to land in relation to the dials, only because the rubber mountings are going to come straight through this bulkhead. So what I want to make sure is that they're going to be in the centre of where the dials sit, and it shouldn't look out of place because the threads of the rubber mountings are going to be covered with domed brass nuts, so they should look quite good there. The other side doesn't really matter because that's going to be behind the helm, so that shouldn't really make much of a difference. But let's get these holes drilled and then we can get it mounted inside and see what it looks like. Right, now I've just had the compressor inside the engine casing to verify that these holes line up, and they do, they line up perfectly. So what I'm going to do now, I've popped the compressor back on top and I'm just going to measure the legs of the compressor down to the join here of the engine casing, and then we can drill the holes on this side to match up. Now this makes me very nervous taking a drill to this. I've not drilled any holes in this for probably 5 years, so let's just hope I don't make any mistakes. Whew, thank God for that. So now I've got this lined up, I'm just going to put a little dot with a permanent marker in the centre of each hole on the feet on this side. Check that's in the middle. Brilliant. And now we know where to drill those holes. Once again, nail biting stuff. Right, so I'll get the nuts and then we can mount these rubber mountings onto this bulkhead. Here we are, there's the rubber mountings, and those are the domed brass nuts. Don't know if that'll focus in there. So we're going to use them. Now, when I come to fit this permanently, I'll be using nice brass washers just to help spread the load on the wood a little bit. But for now, seeing as it's only temporary, we'll just pop these nuts on and see what it looks like. This one is going to be done brass because it's going to be behind the helm, so you won't see it. There we go, that's the rubber mountings fitted. So now I'm going to lift the compressor up inside and bolt that on and just check it all fits. Right, it's a few days since we fit the compressor. I've finally got a bit of time to work on it again. But what I'm going to do today is actually wire the compressor into the bonnet. Now, because sometimes I have to take the bonnet off for maintenance and stuff like that, all the lights and everything, and what was the horn, run off this plug. But this type of plug can't handle the amperage that this compressor needs. So what I've bought is some Anderson plugs, and this can be disconnected if I ever need to take the bonnet off. So there's going to be one inside the bonnet and one actually inside Nessie's engine casing. So we'll wire these up and then we'll put this plug on the end. Right, so we'll start off by stripping these wires. A quarter of an inch or so off there. That's that. Just take a little bit more off that one. Oh. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 1 twist them ends. Now when I'm putting these in connectors, I tend to like to bend the ends over, which gives a little bit more surface contact when you crimp the connector. There's no loose stragglers there. And the connectors I like to use next to soldering are these, which when you've crimped them, they're actually coated with a heat shrink, so you can warm them up and then they seal around the connection, making sure no moisture can get in there to corrode the joint. So them are quite handy connectors. I usually like to solder them, but in this instance these should be fine. So all we do is pop a connector onto the wire and onto that wire. I've lost my fucking crimping tool. Right, so now I've found my crimping pliers. I put a connector on one side, insert the other end of the wire into the connector, and these crimping pliers and crimp. And crimp the length of the connector like that. And then what you can do is get a gentle flame on a blowtorch. You can warm the connector up very gently, turning it periodically. You can see how it's shrinking around the wire. There we go. Just mould that to suit just a little bit. There we go. And that there is now a nice waterproof connection. So now we'll do the same with the other side. And there we go. That's the wires connected. Right, what I'm going to do to support the wire, now we've made the connections, I'm going to put a rubber lined clamp on it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to attach it to here and run the wire behind the light, and then it can join the others and be attached to the side of the bonnet there. So first things first, we'll just take this off. It's a 10mm spanner. Right, so now we've done that, the wire can be run just up past the lamp into there. At least it's quite well supported there. There's still a bit of movement just for when the compressor vibrates, so I don't want these wires attached too tightly. I do need them to move just a little bit, simply for the movement of the compressor. So I'll get some cable ties, then we can clip all them too, and then attach the Anderson plug. Right, now that I've cut that wire to length, we'll proceed to install the Anderson plug. Now with an Anderson plug you get two individual terminals that you solder into place. Now, I suppose you could crimp them, but I do like to solder Anderson plugs. So what I like to do is tin the ends of the wires to make sure they've got a good coating of solder. And then I like to build a solder pool up in the bottom of the Anderson terminal. And then I like to introduce the wire into the solder pool, and that then melts the tinning on the wire and gives you a really good clean connection. So we'll fire up the blowtorch and solder these in place. Now you only want it on a very low heat. Solder melts at a very low temperature, so just gently warm it up just until we start to melt the solder. There we go, starting to go now. So fill this up about halfway with solder. Something like that. Then I'll take the wire. I'll put the negative one on first, why not? And then I introduce that into the pool of solder and turn the blowtorch off. And this is all still very hot, so this melts the solder that I've already put on the ends of the wires and bonds it together. There you go, you can see already you've got a very sturdy connection. So that's it, that's that one connected. Now we'll do the same with the other side. Now when it comes to installing the actual plug housing, it's simply a case of sticking these inside there and then pressing them into place until the locking tab inside locks into that on the back of the plug. So we'll do that now. I'll attach another plug to the side of another length of wire, and then that piece of wire will run inside Nessie's engine casing and up to the fuse box. Right, now that plug's been installed, we need to install this horn before I go installing any of the other plumbing for the whistle and stuff like that. Now this is the wire that's going to be powering the solenoid on that horn. The horn's got a solenoid valve on it, and this is already rigged into the original horn button that Nessie's got on the dashboard there. So what I'm thinking, if we drill a couple of holes in the side there and mount that in place, that's well out of the way of the exhaust and there's plenty of room to get the plumbing in. So let's get this marked up, get some holes drilled and get them mounted. Now by chance I've forgotten my cordless drill today, so we're on the good old pneumatic drill. So I've already marked one hole point there, so we'll just drill through and then we can mount the bracket for the horn and see where the other hole needs to go. So that's a pilot hole. Now I'll drill a bigger one. Now for the bigger hole, I'm going to drill it from the outside to minimise damage to the varnish. So I've put the bigger drill bit in, the 6mm drill bit, so we'll run that through from here. There we go. And a brass washer and domed nut will cover that, and it'll be in keeping with the rest of the boat. Right, so there we go. I've drilled the other hole. So now what we'll do, we'll proceed to install the horn. There we go. Bolts through. Now, as pretty much with everything on Nessie, we've got domed brass nuts and brass washers. There we go. Now I'll get the spanners and tighten them up. Right, so this horn's now been attached to the side here, and I've also wired it into the existing wiring that was there. And now it's finally time to put the plumbing in for the whistle. So what we've got this tube here, and in the end you put these brass inserts in, and these are literally just plug and play connectors, and what happens is they grip on the outside of the tube, and it can't physically come out. The tighter you pull, the sort of tighter it grips. So what we'll do first, we'll attach that to there, and then that T-piece will split it between the horn and the whistle. So I'll just take one of these brass things out of here. So the first one wants to go in there. Make sure that's pushed all the way in, nice and firmly. There you go, see? That's a really good tight connection. And these can swivel as well, so it gives you a bit of freedom of movement. And then I'll put the other brass piece in the end of that pipe. Swing that round, and that can go straight into there. And literally plumbing it in is as easy as that. So I'll do that with the rest of the pipe work now, and then it's actually done. But what I'll do after that, because of where the horn was on the top of the engine casing, I'm going to completely strip the paint off and respray it, just because I want it to look right, and I don't want to take the bonnet off again for quite a while. So yeah, we'll get this plumbed in, and then we can have a look at the paintwork on top. And that's about where I got to before all poo hit the fan and I had to stop filming. But what I will do is I'll show you a sneak peek of a test that I did of the whistle in the workshop, just to finish this video off. But on the next video there will be refurbishing the top of the bonnet and making all the bits and bobs that control the whistle. So I'll leave you with that, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.